Test, 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 test. Hello, welcome to part 3 of my continuing adventures of getting back into Magic the Gathering. So if you're curious about the background, there are 2 previous videos on this YouTube channel, but briefly, my little Magic the Gathering playgroup broke up long ago, but I've always kind of kept one eye on Magic. I always stayed interested in it, and I started listening to a lot of podcasts and watching YouTube channels about Magic the Gathering, and then I discovered Arena, and it's like, cool, a free-to-play online version of Magic. I'm trapped in my hometown due to Corona. This seems perfect. Let's just sit down and play some Magic. And then this has been the chronicle of the difficulties I have had with this game, with this high variance game, with this extremely brutal game, with this giant clusterfuck of chaos and destruction that Magic the Gathering has become in the past 20 years. So basically, last time I was talking about this Lurrus of the Dream Den deck that I had that I was starting to do well with, quote unquote. It's like, I'm up to gold ranking. And then I was getting all stressed out because it's like, if I start losing, I'll lose my gold rank. Turns out gold rank isn't shit, dude. It's nothing. There are so many rankings above gold. When the little thing rolled over and I got these little pathetic rewards, it's like, dude, why did I even care about that? That's kind of good in a way, though, because it's like, all right, I can just get that out of my mind. Like, who cares where I am on the rankings? It's not worth a month's worth of stress to just get some bullshit at the end. Like, as long as you just do your little daily tasks, you'll get more than whatever the ranking rewards are. In like a few days, you'll get more than you'll get at the end of the month for this shit. So who gives a fuck? So that's nice. It's like, I kind of go up the rankings, go down the rankings. I don't care anymore. So that's nice to get that little dumb stress out of my brain. But I was also saying these videos are coming out a little late. I record them, but then I don't get around to putting them out for a little bit. So a set rotation was about to happen, and I was all fucking stressed out because I was using this card called Kaya's Ghost Form to keep my little Lurrus alive. And I was like, oh man, I'm gonna lose those on the rotation. This sucks. But it turns out that wasn't so bad because in the new set, there were all these double-sided cards where on one side there are land and on the other side, the white one gives protection from any color. The black one lets a dead creature come back to life. I don't remember what they're called. I could look it up, but I mean, whatever. That's another weird aspect to playing Magic now. Is I don't know what these cards, like there's so few cards that I actually know the name of. I just kind of know the image and the general gist of it. Even Lurrus of the Dream Den that all of my fucking decks are based on. I didn't actually commit that guy's name to memory until I recorded the little YouTube video about him. So there's a lot of, when something hits the fucking table, all right, let me just read this thing. And again, hey, what can you do, There's like 16,000 Magic cards or something. But it was cool back in the day. Back in the, around Ice Age times. When you really could know every card visually, as soon as someone put something on the table, even if it was like one of the alternate arts or something, it was pretty rare to see a card and not know what it was. And that was kind of neat, but I mean, hey, what can you do? Those days are done. The March of Progress, that's going to be a big aspect to this, is there's so much weird shit to Magic these days, but I don't really know how to get around it. It seems kind of inevitable. So let me see, let me unravel this shit in my brain. So I guess the main thrust of these little talks about Magic have been this push and pull that happens between me trying to convince myself that it's okay to lose But then as soon as things start going well, I start expecting to win. And I just end up right back in the same mental trap of getting all flustered and upset because I'm losing. But that Magic is a game about losing. Like I was just listening to a thing the other day of like some recent tournament that happened. And they're like, oh yeah, so-and-so deck did really great. Like the best record of the tournament or whatever. It had like a 45% win rate. And a 45% win rate is considered amazing, you know? Is like, wow, that deck did really well. It's just not realistic to expect anything better than that. Like if you can go 50-50, you are on fire. You're doing great. But I have such a hard time with that still. It just feels like even when I'm going about 50-50, it just feels like I'm losing all the time. And I just, like I guess this is kind of turning into trying to psychoanalyze myself, you know, trying to figure out what is wrong with me that I have such a hard time accepting defeat and accepting brutal, crushing loss. But I started exploring a bit of the other parts of Magic. So once the standard environment rotated, I mean, my deck, it got a little worse, but not a lot worse. Like I was surprised how many things I found that I was able to shore things up with. Oh, and in particular, there was this card called the Luminant Aspirant. It's just 2 mana for a 1/1, and every turn, one of your creatures gets a +1/+1. Usually they just end up on the Aspirant itself, but every once in a while, you can start putting it on other things. And since my whole deck was kind of based on trying to keep Allurus of the Dream Den alive, I had a lot of stuff already set to go to keep the Aspirant alive. And it would just kind of grow and grow and grow. Because I was kind of doing a lot of like cleric-y shit before, or a Johnny's Pride Mate, just things that would get +1/+1 counters if I gained life and stuff. And sometimes it worked great, and sometimes it didn't work at all. I just really liked this Aspirant that you put him out, and then he just inevitably grows and grows and grows. And sometimes you can really do neat shit, you know, deciding who to put a counter on and where your counter should go. And it's just one of those cards that it really brought me back to alliances, because I started playing Magic when Ice Age came out. Alliances was one of the first sets where I was in from the ground floor. And I just remember it was like that perfect period where I'd gotten over the initial hump of always just losing at Magic and being bad at it. I'd gotten enough of a collection of cards and enough experience with the game that I was feeling pretty okay about Magic playing. I felt like I was on relative par with my friends. Where when I started, you know, they started before me and I was just like, just the guy who came in late. I'm just here to lose, but I just want to hang out with my friends. By the time Alliances came out, I was feeling pretty good about things. And it was just exciting to see all the new cards and to track down the specific stuff that I knew I could make a deck around. And just to have my own theories and plans and like, oh, this could go here and this could do that. And this Luminant Aspirant card, it really reminded me of those days, because it's just like when I started seeing the new cards being revealed and people doing set reviews and stuff, none of it really stood out to me. I'm like, I don't know, maybe this set's cool, maybe it's not, who can say? Didn't seem very exciting. But then as I would encounter things, like when I'm playing against other people and they would cast something against me and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. Wait a second. What if I put that in my deck? Or what if this went here? And the Aspirant is like, it just felt perfect. It's like, oh man, they made this card for me. This fits exactly in my deck. It does exactly what I would want it to do. And it's just such a, you know, just something in my brain just finds it so perfect. The casting cost, the stats, the ability, all of it is just like, that's a perfect little Magic card. That is the greatest. I was really feeling on an upswing about Magic again. But I started noticing, especially after this rotation and they took a bunch of sets out of Standard, things really got kind of brutal, where I guess this happens every time, where people say, they call it solving the format. You know, it's like, okay, we've got these number of cards and these small numbers of sets to draw from. What's the best thing we can make with this limited array of cards? And then the whole community goes crazy trying to find the thing. And in this case, I'm sure anyone listening to this in the future will remember this time, this guy Omnath, this 4-color Omnath. Nobody seemed to give a shit about it in the little previews. Like, whatever, seems okay. Maybe it could be all right. And then next thing you know, it's in every deck. It's just like taking over everything. And the first time I encountered one of these decks was one of those cases where I don't even know what happened. You know, the guy just took like 10 or 12 different steps in one turn and just destroyed me. And it's just like, again, like the way Magic is, the way it's designed, the number of cards, the number of interactions. Like if you removed that type of thing from the game, maybe it would be a worse game, you know? Maybe you would just neuter it too much and it wouldn't have survived for the past 25 years. But I just feel like something is wrong when the other guy can just go bananas and do a million things, and I don't even understand what happened. You know, and I'm dead. And it's like, uh-oh. And then, 2 days later, all I'm hearing about is this Omnath guy, and everyone's freaking out about Omnath. But what was funny about that is then, because these few people cracked the code with this Omnath guy and made these really cool decks, suddenly I was coming across all kinds of people playing Omnath decks. But the neat thing about it is this is where I can see where Omnath is not just overpowered full stop. You need to know what you're doing. You need to build the right deck and you need to pilot it the right way. Because I ended up playing a bunch of people who just had Omnath decks but didn't understand what they were doing. You know, the same way I didn't understand, and neither did they, except they were playing the deck. And I would just mop up these Omnath decks because people would just play it and just not do 16 crazy things. They would play it and do 2 things that didn't matter, and I would just kill them. It's interesting and weird. But I started realizing that Standard, the idea that Standard, you know, these current sets is depowered and is a less dangerous environment is sort of not true. Because everybody just flocks to whatever the best 2 or 3 decks are, and those decks are crazy. Meanwhile, the deck I was playing lost a bunch of its stuff, so it just has a harder time now in this environment. So I was like, all right, well, whatever, man, fuck this. Let's try playing Historic. I was like hesitant to play Historic because that's where you can just play with all the old cards, or at least whatever cards are available on Arena, but it's a lot. And I figured like, oh man, I don't belong in there. I'm just gonna get destroyed. And I did, but not really at a much greater frequency. I still seem to win, I don't know, 30, 35, 40% of the time. Not that bad. And I had access to all my shit again. You know, I could make my deck way, way better. So it was just more fun for me. And it was more fun because I almost never see the same deck twice. Instead of just bumping into these handful of Standard decks, now I was getting my ass beat by just all kinds of random stuff, and crazy things were happening. Stuff I'd never imagined could even happen. Cards I'd never heard of before. And I mean, it was more fun to get beat by crazy shit I never heard of. And it was like so much more open and so much more different. And I'm like, all right, maybe this is where the fun is. Maybe this is better. This big, scary fucking Historic format with all the old, scary, powerful cards is actually kind of fun. There's a lot more going on in this fucking place. And again, because Arena's all digital, if somebody used a crazy card against me that was really cool, I could just go get a copy. I didn't have to go buy a bunch of packs or pay some exorbitant price. Just today, actually, I was in a game store for the first time in forever, and I was looking at their Magic stuff. And here in Canada, like a pack of Magic cards is like $6, you know? And that brought back some memories of just like, I could just envision like, oh man, I wish I had Well, like there's this really cool split card that is perfect for my deck where it's like 1 black and 1 white to bring a creature of casting cost 3 or less back to the battlefield. So that's exactly what you need to bring Loris back from the dead, and then you can just throw a fucking Kaya's Ghost form from your graveyard straight on him. Super cheap, super awesome, and then the other side does something else if you need that. But just imagine how many packs of cards I would have had to buy to get that thing, you know? Like you just buy packs and there's nothing you want in them over and over and over. So expensive. Where Arena, yeah, like I don't know, I put in like 20 bucks. I don't know, I didn't get the Mastery Pass this time because it just sucks. I don't know, there's just not enough shit in there. For some reason though, my stupid wild cards, I mean, I guess with any resource like that, there's always something that runs out first. You know, when you're playing The Last of Us, it's like one time it's just like you never seem to have scissors, and the next time you just never seem to have cloth. There's always something that just inevitably is the thing you have the least of. But for me, it's rares. I have so many mythic rare wild cards that I never use, but I always want rares. I'm always at a rare. It's just weird. I wish I could just use the mythic ones to get rares. But anyway, I could just grab stuff if I needed it. It wasn't that hard to get it. And my deck was getting really cool and things were going really well. But then, yeah, that same thing started happening where just the worm turns in my brain. And instead of like, oh, big scary historic where it's like, oh, I don't belong here, I'm just gonna die. And then I would go in and die and be okay with it and have fun seeing all the new stuff and then be amazed like, whoa, I actually won. Oh, I won again. Oh, I'm actually doing okay. And then it's like it's like I sleep on it and my subconscious shifts my expectation that it's like now I wake up and I'm like, I belong in historic. My deck belongs in historic. My deck's okay in historic. It fucking isn't though. It's a fucking Lurrus of the Dream Den stupid ass fucking deck that I can't even get down to 60 cards. Like I was saying last time, I deliberately made the deck big because of people milling. But mill strategies just seem to have evaporated in the night. They're just gone. But I still can't get this deck down to 60 cards. It's like 80 cards, you know? Like I'm just not a serious man. I'm not a serious contender. But my brain, after a few little wins, is like, but you are though. But you deserve to win. And it just fucks me every time. I wish I didn't feel like that. Because I remember the game specifically that I fucking was playing this game against this dude. And I had like 2 land in my opening hand and I should have mulliganed. I just should have. Because minimum, to do anything, I need 3 mana to bring Loris out of the little fucking companion zone into my hand and 3 to cast him. Even with 3 mana, I'm probably still fucked. That's very difficult to maneuver with that little mana. But because of that, I have shitloads of mana in my deck. Like I just hate not getting my land so much that I've got more land than would normally be advisable, plus a bunch of those flip cards that are half land, half another thing. My deck has an absurd amount of land. Oh, but that's another thing I like about Historic, is I could use these cycling lands. So later in the game, inevitably, I'm drawing a lot of land because I just put so much land in my deck, so I can at least cycle them away. And yet, it's just better than the alternative. I would rather flood out with land later on than have no land at the start. But inevitably, eventually, because it's a random game and the cards are just shuffled up randomly, eventually something's gonna go wrong. You know, I should not have kept that hand with 2 land in it. But I was doing remarkably well with 2 land, because the whole deal with Loris, in order for him to be your companion, you can't have any permanents in your deck that cost more than 2. So I got a lot of shit with a 2 casting cost, and I was holding this guy off and I was doing really well, and I just wouldn't draw a single other land. And the game dragged on to like turn 7 or 8, and it's like, okay, I'm dead. There's no way I can make this. Thanks a lot, randomness, you fucked me. But that really never happens. Like that was the one time out of like fucking 40 or 50 times that happened, because I put so much land in my deck. But it has to happen eventually, right? And at that point I was like, all right, it's over. But I really did well with such a bad fucking run of luck But now just give me the land. That's where I went wrong. My brain was like, all right, I'm dead anyway, but just give me a land. It's time now. It's been like 8 or 9 turns or whatever. It's time. Give me the land and let's just see. Let me go down fighting. And I fucking swear to God, I went like 10 more turns and I never drew another land. It's just fucking unbelievable. The other guy had like 9 land in play by the time I finally died, and I still had 2, and my deck is fucking filled with land. And I got so fucking mad. You know, for anyone who didn't hear my previous entries, I come from a family of angry people. My mom's got a bad temper, my dad's got a crazy bad temper, aunts and uncles, all kinds of people with bad tempers. We're just inclined toward this type of thing. When I was a kid, I used to get really angry playing fucking Super Mario and shit. And it's the kind of thing that I've mostly gotten away from in my adult life, but not because I ever dealt with it, just because I avoid situations that make me mad. I don't play that many video games anymore. If they start making me mad, I just bail. But getting back into Magic the Gathering triggered that shit like crazy. And this was one of those situations where my annoyance just kept growing every single turn that I wasn't drawing a land, and growing and growing and growing. And if anyone out there has fucking weird, bizarre rage issues, you'll know what I'm talking about here, where it's like, you really don't notice how bad it's getting, because you're only a little annoyed, and then a little annoyed, but it's really, what's the term? It's exponential, you know? I'm a number 1 angry, then a number 2 angry, then a number 4 angry, then a number fucking 16 angry, then just all of a sudden, I am fucking infuriated. I am so fucking angry, and I don't even know when it happened. I should have stopped playing, 10 minutes earlier and I might have been okay, but this was just way too late. And I was so mad. So obviously I quit out of Magic, and I was like, fuck this. But this is where it became like a science experiment I was doing on myself, where I've just got this frustration and I don't know how to get it out of me. I wish I just had a punching bag. That would actually be awesome. But I tried just like, let's take deep breaths. Wasn't helping. I went and took a shower, a long shower, and I'm just in the shower trying to do the deep breaths, letting the water run over me. I don't know, must have been like 20 minutes at least. But then I got out and dried off and put on a fresh pair of clothes, and I'm still just infuriated. It just wouldn't go away. And that's where it's like my brain then at that point almost like splits in half. There's the 2 halves of me. There's the half of me that is just filled with stress hormones and whatever it is that gets into your fucking body that makes you feel like this. And then there's the other side that is like, holy shit, this is like fascinating. Like, what is going on? At this point, there's nothing making me mad anymore. The Magic game is over. It's been like half an hour. There is no stimulus left to make me mad. It's just whatever crazy ass hormones got flooded into my body are still in there, and they just wouldn't go away. Like at this point, it became like a science experiment of just like, man, like I'm learning about myself. That really, I think this makes a lot of sense. This explains a lot about having these fucking anger problems and just like physiologically what it means. It doesn't take that much to set me off. And then once the poison is in my veins, it doesn't go away easily. It really hangs around for a long time. But that day I was like, whoa, like this is okay. This is like not ignorable anymore. This is wacky as fuck, like this is where I have to acknowledge this is not some kind of one-off thing. This is what always happens, and this is what's always gonna happen, because physiologically this is how I am. My little fucking anger impulses do not go away. They just stay there. And I went for a little walk through these very woods that I'm in right now. And so here's the thing. I was just like, fucking Magic, fuck this, why am I doing this? Like, fuck this game, I'm all set to fucking delete this shit again. But before I left the house, I like never use Reddit. I'm not a Reddit guy, but I had fired up my little Reddit account the day before to go on to the Magic Reddit page to ask people for recommendations for like Magic podcasts. Because I just liked having something every day to listen to about Magic, and the ones I had found, they just weren't enough. I burned through them all. So people gave me 5 or 6 different recommendations. I downloaded all those, put them onto my phone, went for a walk down the hill while I listened to Magic podcasts. At the bottom of the hill, I got like a sandwich somewhere, and I was sitting outside eating, and I watched some stuff on my phone, and one of the things on my phone, I just have different little videos on there, was one of the Nate Sahone top 10s, where he just has top 10 Magic cards of different varieties. So I watched a little Magic stuff while I was eating my sandwich. And then on the way back up the hill, I listened to some more Magic podcasting. And that's when it occurred to me. It took all that time. It took all of this calamity in my brain and this long walk where, despite being super angry at Magic, all I did was listen to Magic shit and watch Magic stuff. And I was contemplating, like, man, that was such an intense level of anger. Like, despite my family history and despite my own history of getting mad at video games, I really haven't been mad like that. I don't even remember when. And that's when it suddenly occurred to me, wait a fucking second, I am addicted to Magic the Gathering. It's very fucking obvious. I can't stop playing it even though it makes me miserable. And even when it makes me super miserable, I'm going out of my way to find different things to listen to about it. And then when the game goes bad, I get double, triple mad because I'm fucking addicted to it. It's total junky behavior, like absolutely. It just seems so obvious all of a sudden. It's like, how did I not see that? So that's where I'm at now. It's like, woo, all right. Realizing more and more wacky stuff about myself, but like it's very undeniable that I'm pretty addicted to Magic. And I guess it's the perfect kind of thing to get addicted to, because not only do I just like the game and I think it's cool and interesting, and I've got this past with it and it's just this neat part of my life, but it really is, like I've said before, it really is like a slot machine. It's so random and so ridiculous. But when you win, when things line up just right, it feels great to have all your plans come to fruition. And probably doubly great because it is a deck I made. I'm not net decking, I'm not using other people's plans, I'm coming up with shit. And when it works, it's like, whoa, look at that. Feels amazing. But then when you get crushed, as you usually do, as everyone does, just like gambling, man, the house always wins. You're gonna lose way more than you win. And it sets off all this horrible, fucking addictable, junky behavior of just like, I want my little fix. I want to feel good because I want a Magic. And when I lose, I feel so bad. And it's just like, ugh. So, the obvious thing with all of this, what was obvious from the very first one of these little entries I made, is the obvious thing to do is just to stop. Just to fucking quit. And that might still be coming. That might still be in the cards. I have a feeling that's the only way this can end. The only way I can go back to a relatively healthy, relatively stable life is to just fucking let Magic the Gathering go once again and move on with my life. But I'm also kind of who knows, maybe this is again just my weird, addictable mind coming up with these fucking rationalizations. But I find cold turkey is not necessarily what has ever worked for me, Denying something tends to it just builds up in the background. It just gets worse. It's not a solution for me. The only way out is through. But I have to, I think I'm just going to keep wrestling with this a little bit longer and see what happens. But I'm really trying to convince myself and really trying to let myself know that the solution is never going to be that I don't lose in Magic. That's not coming. That's not possible. That's not what this game is. That's not the experience that anyone is having with this game. But I think that is part of this little fucking addictable little mess that makes it extra addictable, is that it's not just a slot machine. It's not just random. You are making your own decks and you are making your own plans. And it really makes you feel like you are involved in solving this problem, or that it is a problem that can be solved. Like just today, it was nothing as dramatic as missing land drops for fucking 15 straight turns. It was just, there's just these runs where things go well, where I win most of the time, and I have a day where it's like, wow, I won almost every game today, awesome. And then the next day, it's just the pendulum swings, and I just lose over and over and over. And it feels like what was a pretty good deck yesterday is just shit today, and I'm like, God damn, what do I do? And I got annoyed, and I deleted the game again. I'm like, why am I putting myself through this? I just got to delete the game. This is fucking stupid. And then I laid down for a little power nap. And as I was laying there, my brain started concocting plans. It was like, first I took my black-white Lurrus deck, and I'm like, it's just not fast enough for Historic. It's not working. Let's split it into a mono black and a mono white and try those. So I don't have to mess around with dual lands and shit. I can actually get it down to 60 cards. Let's give this a go. And then as I was laying there, I had the other plan of like, well, wait a minute. When's the last time in Historic, because it's so fast and so brutal, when's the last time I actually had the time and the resources to pay the 3 mana to bring my Lurrus out of the companion zone into my hand and to actually cast him? And God forbid I put a fucking mirror shield or something on him. Like, it just hasn't happened in forever. So why am I still approaching things this way? Fuck the companion zone. Who needs that? What if I just go wild card up some extra Lurruses, just put him in my deck? Just put him in like normal. Most of the time I don't get to cast this guy anyway. So if I don't happen to draw him, no big loss. And if I do, then I can just cast him for 3 mana. Don't have to jump through all these hoops to get this fucking guy. And then that was it, where my brain was like, oh, there you go. There's an idea. There's a plan. You can't just quit now. You gotta go try your plan. Maybe this will solve everything. Maybe this will make everything work. Maybe your stupid piece of shit deck that just got its ass kicked all fucking day and made you re-delete the fucking game. Maybe now, oh, you do this one little thing and maybe the fucking Hellraiser box is about to open. Maybe you'll be all set. And it's like, fucking fuck. God damn it. I know that's not gonna happen. It probably will help. It'll probably give me an incremental increase in potential wins, but it's not gonna make a big difference. The larger reality, the larger situation is not gonna change. I'm gonna lose most of the time. I'm gonna win once in a while. And I'm not gonna be okay with that, and I'm gonna get frustrated. Ugh. But I'm gonna do it again. Gonna try again. Now I'll reinstall the stupid game and I'll make the changes to my stupid deck and I'll just be stupid. I'll just be a stupid junkie. And it's doomed to failure, and I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. Oh, I remember what it was. This other thing that made me fucking delete the goddamn game. Because I was playing against this guy, and we were more or less even, but he was getting ahead of me a little bit. It was starting to slowly encroach. So I did like a board wipe, destroyed all his creatures. And then a couple turns later, I used that thing that's like 2 white and X to destroy as many enchantments and artifacts as you want. And I blew up all his enchantments and artifacts. And then a little bit after that, I did another creature board wipe, killed all his creatures. So it was just like, theoretically, tempo-wise, I used like 3 cards to destroy, oh man, I'm gonna guess, let's see here, easily 15 of his things. And he still fucking beat me. Like, that's how crazy Magic has gotten. Where it's just like, you know, they talk about how back in the day it was like you really wanted to eke out those subtle advantages, you know, like, oh, I got a little extra card draw over here, I got a little extra mana tempo over here, and you slowly turn the tide with these incremental advantages that you've gotten over the other guy, where it's just not like that anymore. Man, nowadays if you play a card that doesn't let you draw 3 other cards, you're just wasting your fucking time. And I know I'm just a fucking dumb bitch who complains about this stupid fucking game, but it's just, man, this cannot be. Again, it's just like the game is 25 years old or whatever. Tens of thousands of cards. Everything advances, everything inevitably grows and becomes more and more crazy. But I just don't think this is what this game was intended to be. You know, and again, I don't know how it could have avoided getting here. But man, it reminds me of those people that they only want to play vanilla World of Warcraft, you know, they want to go back to the olden days. They don't want shit to be all crazy and built up. That's how I kind of feel about Magic. It's like, man, back in the day, when if you got to draw 3 extra cards over the course of the game, you were like, I did it. I fucking rule. I did great that time. As opposed to now, where it's like, I mean, people have legitimate debates about like, is it too much for a game to be over by turn 4? You know, like, oh, I don't know, these games have been over by turn 3 a lot lately. Maybe this is getting a little out of control. It's way fucking out of control. It's fucking ridiculous. What a bad game. What a bad game. This is not what Magic was supposed to be, you young whippersnappers. I don't care if I am an old fucking complaining fuck. This shit is fucking stupid how just like out of control things get so fucking quick. And it only adds to the fucking roulette wheel of despair. The only way to keep up with these brutally crushing decks is to play one of the other brutally crushing decks, and then you're just brutally crushing each other in 3 turns back and forth and back and forth. It's just fucking not a good game. I can see why Commander is the most popular format, where it's 1 of each card, 100 cards. You can fucking relax a little bit. You can cast a spell that costs more than 3 mana. Gameplay wise, it's not the same as old Magic, but spiritually, it's much closer. Okay, well, there's the update. What value this is to anyone, including myself, who the fuck knows? But I don't know, maybe I'll come out of this process having learned something about myself. I don't know. So anyway, there's that. Still the COVID world. Everyone's still just trapped in lockdown. Guess I'll just keep playing Magic. Guess I'll just keep fucking ruining my fucking life. This piece of shit game. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time. Adios. All right, I'm just gonna record a quick little thing. Let's just finish this off. This was just like a weird little side project because I wanted to talk about Magic, but it's quite pointless because who the fuck is listening to this shit? Nobody. It's just for me to blab about, and I think that's enough. Even if I'm just talking to myself, I think I'm done. So the final little update recap is, I mean, just basically the same story. Is whenever I relax and learn to accept defeat in Magic, I do better. But then because I do better, I start expecting to be more successful, and then that makes me super, super frustrated when I'm not. It's just the same push and pull over and over, and technically, I guess I'm moving on up. But who cares, you know? Like, the parts where I get pissed off at this game are not getting any better. So what if I'm moving up the fake ladder, you know? Who cares? But basically, I started playing, I still have my little black-white Lurrus deck, and I cut it down to 60 cards. It's like, okay, enough of this not streamlining the deck thing. Mill seems to have chilled out a bit into the meta. So I got it down to 60 cards, and it's just like, it's like a little tumbler clicks. It's like everything falls into place, and suddenly I'm just winning a whole bunch, and I moved even further up the ladder. You know, I was all excited that I got to gold. Gold is nothing, you know, there's like one beyond gold, and then I was like above that, like diamond or whatever. And I wasn't intending to, I wasn't really planning to, it just happening. It just worked. I'm like, oh shit, this deck works. So this is the last place before Mythic, you know, the top level is Mythic, but you got to get through this diamond zone. And that's when things get really bad, because no one is trying anything interesting. No one is fooling around. Everyone is just playing the best decks because everyone desperately wants to get through this battlefield into Mythic. And everything gets so hard all of a sudden, way, way harder. And yeah, I just would go up a little bit, then get knocked back down, up a little bit, knocked back down. It's driving me nuts. And one thing I've started noticing is, like, none of these observations I've made about Magic are like some kind of secret. Like, I was listening to a Magic podcast and they mentioned that very thing of just like, yeah, I'm at that diamond level and that's where it just sucks. It sucks so bad. It's so hard. And then if you can get up to Mythic, it actually opens up again because people chill out and they're willing to try new weird stuff because they're already at Mythic. But this last step before Mythic is the ultimate meat grinder. And yeah, it was they were just like, that's not even fun. I don't like it. And I was feeling that too. But I found some ways to pump up my deck even more since I was already playing Lurrus and I had all of these enchantments, you know, Mire's Grasps and Dead Weights to take people out because I could recur them with Lurrus. I realized I could use Hateful Eidolon, which is just a little one casting cost creature that whenever something dies that has one of your enchantments on it, you draw a card. And when it works, you can just draw sick amounts of cards. It's like, when it lines up, it's amazing. It's like every time your opponent casts a creature, it's like, why would you do that? You're just feeding my guys. You're just giving me more targets to draw more cards. You know, it doesn't work every time, but when it does, it's amazing. It's definitely a good addition. And then instead of playing with Lurrus as the companion, just to loosen things up and give myself more options, I just put in a couple of Lurruses in the main deck so I could play permanents that cost more than 2. And the main one is a Demonic Embrace, an enchant creature that gives them +3/+1 and flying, but you can cast it out of your graveyard. Once you get one of these, or if it gets milled into your graveyard, you can just keep casting it. And it made a real big difference because I could just take whatever creatures that I happen to have and pump them up into a flying actual threat. And it's a great way to finish things out, better than the Crawling Barrens I was using before. So things are going even better, and I moved up to, like, you know, over halfway up through Diamond, but I still just couldn't make it. Oh, the other guys I really like are, man, what are they called? Tempered Veterans or some shit? It's just a 3/1, but you can discard a card from your hand to make them indestructible. Those guys are really useful. Given the circumstances, you know, they're no good against bigger creatures, but against medium and small creatures, it's so great because I'm already using like Sahiri Shelters and Malakir Rebirths. You know, I already got a lot of cards that just keep my creatures alive, but with those guys, any card will keep them alive under most circumstances. So you can just toss a bunch of, if you got useless shit in your hand, you can just use it to keep those guys alive, and it can really be relentless. Some decks just can't deal with that. And it's such a neat feeling to have the casting cost of the ability just be to discard a card, like a mana-less ability, because it's like, it frees up your whole hand. You just feel like it's like cruise control, hands-free driving, you know, where I can still just cast removal spells or just do whatever I'm doing. And independently of that, I can protect my creature. It's really neat. When it works, it's very nice. And again, you can put a Demonic Embrace on those bad boys and they really hurt. So, I mean, the deck was getting really good, but still not top tier, still not good enough. And I still just have, again, there's nothing you can do about net decking, but I still just have kind of a problem with it. I mean, I like the fact that I came up with my deck. I figured this shit out on my own. more or less. I mean, I got little tips from here and there, and just like I watched a guy on YouTube with a black deck. That's how I came up with some of these ideas for Eidolons and Demonic Embraces. But I'm not just playing the predetermined deck, because it really doesn't feel like Magic to me. Like, it feels like you're buying a pre-con deck, you know, when you'd go to the store and you just buy those pre-made decks that are just dumb. You're basically just playing a pre-con deck. It's just a really good one. You know, like Magic, instead of being this game where you have all these cards and you figure out stuff to do with them, instead it's the game where you have, oh, here's your 4 decks, just pick one and play it. And again, there's nothing you can do about it. It's just the way it is, but I just don't like it. I feel like it's not right. It's not what I think of as Magic. Whenever I see someone playing these decks, I just feel like I just want to beat them just as like to teach them a lesson. And again, it's all just such a bad attitude. Like, that's what this all comes down to. It's my quest to try to have a good attitude about this game, and I can't. And I'm starting to realize I never will. So basically, I got so pissed again. This one was just like the final, all right, this is too much. Where it was like the middle of the night, and I really was trying so hard to bite my lip, and I was really trying to not express my anger outwardly. But the next day, my cousin was like, buddy, when it's 3 a.m. and you're losing at the game, will you just turn it off, please? Because I have work, and I can hear you being an asshole. And it was extremely embarrassing, and I feel bad that I even put him into the position of having to say that to me, because that's not comfortable for him either. And it's like, this is, I mean, it's one thing if I want to ruin my own day playing Magic, but when I ruin someone else's because they can't sleep because I'm being a stupid fuck, it's like, I mean, I guess the experiment is over, right? Like, we have the answer. Am I going to learn how to lose? Am I going to learn how to deal with this? No. No, I'm not. But anyway, I guess the final thing that it did help a lot is, I don't know why it took me so long to do this, but Arena is like a best of 1, and best of 1 is nonsense. You know, it's like if you have a degenerate deck, like there's these fucking cycling decks with, it's that cycling card that does, it does X damage of however many cards with cycling are in your graveyard. Completely degenerate. If you don't have any way to prepare for that, it just can just roll you over. And best of 1 is just allows for degeneracy like that to be successful. So I finally started playing with a sideboard, and I have no idea why it took me so long to switch to best of 3. It's so much better, where the first game can just be like scouting, like maybe you win, maybe you lose, but it doesn't feel that bad to lose, because it's like, okay, well, now I can prepare and I can switch things up and I can try a different strategy the next time. And that did help, but still just not enough. You know, and again, with like the idea that none of these observations are unique. I also heard people on podcasts who are, you know, lifetime pros and stuff saying like best of 1 is not Magic. That's not how Magic's supposed to be. You gotta have the sideboard. It's the only way to take this randomness and this chaos and to bring any kind of balance to it, is to at least give yourself a second kick at the can, you know? But then they were also saying this idea of, a different guy, I guess, said this idea of playing on a ladder is also, it's just not what Magic is intended to be. You're not supposed to play under the pressure that you need to win more often than you lose, or you won't progress up the ladder. It just adds this expectation of victory that is absolutely unrealistic. And then ultimately, that guy, Luis Scott Vargas, he's like kind of one of the most famous Magic players. Somebody asked him about getting angry at the game. What do you do when you get angry at the game? And he was mentioning how he's known people throughout the years. There's some people that they just can't play Magic the Gathering. They just can't. They just get too angry at it, and they can't seem to stop. And I was like, well, there's me, all right. And then he said, like, you know, it's one thing if you walk away from Magic because you just can't deal with the randomness. But what's really sad is when you're in that circumstance and you keep playing. When you're a rage player and you just won't stop, and you just are an embarrassing fool who makes everyone's life miserable, including your own. Like, don't do that. If you are the kind of person that can't play Magic, then don't. Then don't play Magic. And it's like, how can I argue with that, man? How can I argue with that? That's where I am. That's what it's how it's gonna be. Like, that's the conclusion I've come to. I'm not gonna get over this hump. I'm not gonna figure out how to manage my frustrations. It's not gonna happen. I've been trying for months. It's not gonna happen. So from here, whatever. But I mean, I guess, I should play. Here's the thing I could lay out for myself. If I only play best of 3, so I have a sideboard and I stop putting myself through that insanity of best of 1, if I don't play on the ladder, and especially if I just only play, like I mentioned way back, just when there's the daily rewards that you get, that you don't need to win to get them, you just get stuff for playing, then it'd be no problem. Then yeah, whatever, just play some Magic. It's even better if you just play every 2 or 3 days, because then it piles up 2 or 3 days worth of stuff and you just get mountains of rewards for a very easy task. But playing every day and trying to get up this ladder is just a miserable nightmare, and I cannot tolerate it. I'm not the right personality type. I'm never gonna succeed. Ugh. So there's my adventures with Magic the Gathering. But if you happen to be on this YouTube channel, I'm still going to keep posting these videos of just all the cards from Magic's past, because that's so cool. And I still like listening to fucking podcasts about Magic. And it's like I guess I'll finish off with that, I guess, because that's the last thing I realized, is if I had just picked this game up this year for the first time, there's no fucking way I'd be putting this much effort into keeping it in my life. There's no fucking way. The only reason is because of nostalgia. Because I played this game as a teenager, and because I have all these fond memories of the old cards and of the fun times I had with my fucking friends, and now I'm in COVID nowhere land, and I'm just trying to hold on to some happiness from the past. That's the only fucking reason I'm putting up with Magic the Gathering. It is not a fucking good game. It's not. I would never be putting this much effort into trying to play this stupid fucking game. So what does that mean, I gotta try to untangle what that means in my brain. This is some misguided attempt to harness the happiness of the past, but it's actually just bringing me horrible torment in the present. So how's that for a weird ending? That's a fucking downer. All right, thanks for listening again. I have no idea how you found this. God bless you for listening. I'm fucking out!